will speak about screening process, screening of clients and screening of transactions. So previously we agreed that we have to keep information about our clients in our internal databases, which will let us to screen this information against sanctions lists. And we'll do this in accordance with the risks assigned to our clients. So once again, it's an expectation by lawmakers, by authorities, that businesses will take actions to ensure that they are not conducting any business with a sanctioned person. And therefore, you as a business have to make sure before you provide any kind of service, before you start any business relationship, that your client or related persons are not targeted by sanctions. And also, you have to make sure that underlying activity, for instance, providing financial advisory to a person from a specific country, is also not a sanctionable activity, right? So check client and check activity. As we remember, we may have sectoral sanctions, and they have different sort of implications on specific activities. Therefore, you later on, if you start your relationship, you have to monitor changes in your clients, right? So before relationship, you screen to be sure that you start business with not sanctioned person. And then after you onboarded your client, you also have to screen your clients and information about these clients from time to time, again, based on risk level, to ensure that you follow all changes in ownership structure of your clients. Maybe they have additional businesses, new businesses, and they may become subject to sanctions restrictions, right? So altogether, you have to be sure that your customers do not become sanctioned at a later point in your business relationship. And you may need to be sure that your IT system is keeping the information which is current, and that you screen against the most appropriate information, most appropriate lists and sanctions restrictions. And again, automation will be the key to modern day sanctions compliance approach. When to screen, once again, based on your risks, but you always have to screen at the beginning of new relationship, right? So you screen before you start relationship, before you adopt your new client. You always screen you and you change data about your customer. Changes in directorships, changes in ownership. You always have to screen this new information if it includes persons related to sanctions restrictions. And also you have to do from time to time so-called regular screening or batch screening of the whole your customer base. You decide when you do this, weekly, daily, monthly, you decide based on what risk levels you see in your client base and specific clients. Once again, what you have to screen about those clients: names, owners, representatives, in other words, all officials related to this company and also partners. And the result of the screening will show some sort of matches with sanctions lists, right? And you have to make sure that this match is real or not. So you make your own investigation if this match leads to understanding that really your customer is a sanctioned person or not. And you always have to document result of this investigation, because you may need to demonstrate your approach and your actions to authorities or other interested persons, auditors, for example. The same is applicable to transaction screening, right? So we screen customers and we screen actually our business and transactions, what we do. Why we, again, in transaction, we need to be sure that we are not making transactions and businesses and cooperation with those who are sanctions targets. So for transactions, you screen again parties involved. That means your own customers, their partners who participate in the transaction. Maybe if your business is related to different kind of services like cargo transportation, you need to understand who is the cargo owner, or logistics provider, again, to ensure that they are not targeted by sanctions. And for transactions, the same as for customers, you need to understand if the activity itself is not sanctioned. For instance, carriage of particular cargo may be restricted by sanctions, right? And you cannot be involved in this transaction. So before you do any transaction, you have to screen. Before you provide any service, you have to screen. After the transaction, can be too late. If it's gone, you could have already breached the sanctions if the sanctioned person was involved in this activity. So as soon as transaction has gone, if sanctioned person involved, you face the breach of sanctions and all the consequences. So therefore, transaction screening should happen before transaction happens. And in this regard, it's important to have proper system which allows you to make this job efficient and effective. First of all, if you use automated system to screen, make sure that your system minimizes false positives. Otherwise, you will just waste your time for incorrect matches. The system may alert about the match between your customer or current transaction and sanctioned person, and when you analyze this match, you understand that this is actually not a sanctioned person, and this is false statement by the system. We call this false positive, and this interrupts the smooth operation of your business. Therefore, it's important that your system allows to work with minimal false positives. Then it's advisable to use the system which ensures fuzzy logic. That means different names may be written in different alphabets, in different spelling, and the system which you use should be capable to recognize that different spellings mean one and the same name, right? Because in the sanctions list, it may appear the name of the person in one way, but in your database, your client may appear slightly in different manner, and system has to be able to understand this is the same person. We call this fuzzy logic. Then system has to be capable to make regular updates in sanctions lists, right? As soon as sanctions lists are changed, they appear publicly. For example, for European Union, we mentioned this official journal where those lists appear, and the system has to be capable to update them timely, and basically this will allow you to keep your business compliant with new changes in sanctions. And it's very advisable to keep a journal of your checks. If you do them daily, weekly, keep a journal of checks made by yourself manually or it's done by your system. But it's necessary to keep documentation and proof that you did those checks for any further questions, possible audits or whatever. But it's very necessary to stay compliant.